Welcome to the Bookish Spell, your cozy corner for all things bookish. I'm Angie, your host, and each week I'll be diving into the magical world of books, sharing reviews, author interviews, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday, so grab a cup of coffee and get ready to turn the page with me.
Hello, Nathelee, and thank you for joining us on the Bookish Spell.
Yeah.
So nice to meet you. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit of what you're working on? So I know you write some poetry, but you're also working on a novel.
Yeah, so I'm working on a novel. I have not come up with a name yet, but I feel like that's pretty appropriate for like how I like to do things. I really like the title to be really representative of like what the whole story is. And I don't even know what the whole story is yet. So I find that really important.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to start writing, and how did your journey begin?
I think as far as poetry, I've been actually writing poetry since I was like very young. I was probably still in elementary school, and it's just been something that I've done to like cope with, the things that I'm going through, the emotion I'm going through. And it helps me to get it out, which is mostly what this poetry book is going to focus on. It's really going to focus on the grief that I went through in losing my grandfather in 2023. Yeah.
Wow. Just recently.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It doesn't even like, it even feels like it feels recent, but like far.
Yeah.
And that's, but I recognize that as like part of grief too, is like being like, what? How has all this time passed? Yeah, so I've just been writing poetry for a long time. The things that's inspired a lot of the poetry in this book, like I said, is from losing my grandpa. But as far as the book, that I had been kind of, sitting around thinking, not sitting around, but like just kind of I think a lot. I'm in my head a lot. I'm always taking in a ton of information all at once. And so my brain is always trying to like kind of organize it and all of that. So it's like my brain is like never done.
Yeah.
And so I was having like a kind of deep moment thought about, kind of like our world and the things that the I don't know, like just the way that the world is, and just kind of being disappointed with it and trying to figure out how to kind of funnel those thoughts and organize them. And I think one of the things that I had realized in writing this was that I feel like a lot of us are losing our identity. And we're losing it, not just as adults, but as very young people too. A lot of that is like related to trauma. And so this story is really about significant trauma and healing and finding freedom from power, and trying to make it out of a situation that seems impossible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what can we expect like with your novel? Do you have an idea what type of genre or theme you're exploring?
Yeah. So the novel's going to be like sci-fi, I guess, is how I'd categorize it. Because it's kind of like, it takes place after like a apocalyptic sort of event.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. But at our specific time in the story, it has already, like, the world has recovered, right? But the characters, again, like they don't really know like that it was that way before, like what it was before, and now they're very controlled in this environment. There is two different kinds of I guess like beings in this, which is the human beings and then the vessel. what I call them. Yes. The vessel kind was seemingly created for servitude, right? So, yeah. Yeah. And so it follows a character. Her name's Adva. I'm still playing around with names too, but that one seems like, yeah, it seems like one I really would like to stick with. But it's really kind of just about her like having an awakening almost, I guess. Yeah. And it takes her a while. I mean, I'm only on chapter 2. She's not there yet. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read what you sent me. So
Yeah, I think it's so late.
Oh, I'll probably try to read it when I get in bed. Was that a full first chapter you sent me?
I sent you the chapter 1 and 2. So that way.
Oh, I got both chapters?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to try to read those in bed tonight.
Yes, I would love to hear your opinion on it after you read through it.
I will. So what are some of the biggest challenges you may have encountered while working on your novel or even your poetry?
I've never written a novel before. So that's I think my biggest challenge right now.
Yeah.
It's such like I was listening to one of your episodes I think last week. I can't remember who it was that was on, but she was talking about gosh, I wish I could remember the name. It was about a book about finding the light in the darkness.
Oh, there's a way with darkness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
she wrote that by herself.
Yeah, and I was listening to it and just like kind of like how she was talking about like her process, and I'm like, this is so helpful because I and it's also very validating the way that she spoke about it too. It's because it just, I mean, it's literally a blank page, and you're like, what do I do with this? This is now like too much freedom. Like, whereas like as the writing a novel is very structured, whereas poetry for me is not so structured. It just comes up and I just write.
Right.
Yeah, like it seems like there's no kind of like trigger for it, and it's actually really hard for me to just like sit down and write a poem.
Yeah.
But writing this novel, it's actually easier if I sit down and I really focus on developing the characters and the story itself. That I think is like very difficult too, is developing characters, developing, all these different sections of what your novel will be, so that's been the biggest challenge, is organizing all of this and having all the freedom.
Do you just like figure out as you go? Because I mean, I've been an inspiring writer since like the beginning of time.
Yeah.
But like I just never know where to start. And that's essentially why I kind of started this, because I just want to know, like, what are people doing? How do you figure it out?
Yes. It's like the biggest question when it comes to starting to write a book is like, where do I start?
Well, Zoe is the author of that Away with Darkness, and I will send you her Instagram if you're not already following her.
I would love that.
She is so open to talking to other writers, inspiring writers, readers, if they're wanting help or advice. She's really, really good with that. So you can reach out to her and she'll be more than happy to kind of connect with you. She even like says that in that episode. She'll be glad to help anybody. But she really is a true inspiration. And I feel like I can't talk about her enough, because she not only wrote that book from, having no, just kind of just wrote it and then edited it herself and done self-publishing. So she done it all. She created her cover as well.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
She done everything entirely by herself.
She does it all.
Yes, which I feel like is super inspiring, especially for, inspiring writers, people who are creating their first novel, people who, don't know whether they want to just wait to be curated. My mouth cannot pronounce that. Curated, or go like the traditional publish route, or do self-publishing. Like, she talks pretty good about that in that episode. I feel like she does give some good information, but I'll send you her Instagram because she is wonderful to chat with.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that episode. I got a lot out of it. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Yes. If I ever have like a second to breathe, I will read the book as well.
It was a good book. I read it. It was super good. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was good, especially when you read it. Well, I would like to reread it, to be honest, because it's like I read it before I spoke with her. But reading it after speaking with her, it gives you a different perspective.
Wow.
So I would like reread it again.
Yeah.
That's what I do love about talking to authors, because it really does give you a different perspective when you're reading their book. And it's not always just a story they came up with. It's always something that they've been through and put a little twist on it.
Yes. Yeah.
It is quite inspiring.
Yeah. I feel like that is certainly true for sure. I definitely think there is some connection from my life to what I'm writing as well, especially in the poetry, but for sure, like, I'm starting to notice the connections as I write this novel as well. So
can we expect your poetry book to be out anytime soon?
I'm hopeful for next year. I'm again, like I'm so indecisive. So when I come up with like a title or anything like that, like I was talking about before, I'm like constantly changing it. But the title I'm working with now is Hollow of Feeling. And a lot of what that means is I'd gone through grief for so long, but I had been very familiar with depression. I've struggled with depression since I was a teen.
Right.
And hollow, like, doesn't feel real. Like, it doesn't feel like a normal feeling. It feels very empty. And that's how the world kind of feels. It feels a little better now, but when I lost him, especially like the year of 2023 was so challenging for that. So hopefully in 2025 it will be released. So
okay, nice.
Yes.
We'll look forward to seeing that from you.
Yeah.
Really do. So when it comes to, maybe checks, have you gotten this far to like character building in your novel? And if you have, what like approach did you use to building your characters? Does any of your characters resemble any people in your life?
I am still kind of struggling with that part of it, building the characters. For Adva, she's had quite a bit of, my thought process for now is that I'm slowly building her characteristics and stuff like that, and kind of implementing those into the story as I go. For her, for right now, and I have a journal where I like kind of keep all the character information, and so like I'll write their character name at the top, which has all the scribbles everywhere because it's been renamed so many times. And then I just start by just like writing characteristics. And for her, I especially want to implement a lot of different like mannerisms and stuff like that. Like I really want the reader to like feel with her. And like, and really like get into her world and experience it in a very visceral way.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like the character name changing is very normal for writers, because you have to look at it from this perspective. You could come up with a million names, like say like someone's having a baby. They could come up with a million names, but they won't know what their name is going to be until they see the baby. Then when you see the baby, okay, that's their name. So I feel like as you develop your character and as you write, you create that person. Because you have to kind of like write the story, from what I gathered, to build your character. You can't just like, I don't know, this is what I feel would work for me. Like I can't envision myself like, I want this character to be like this, have this characteristics, looks like this, and then I'm going to build a story around it. Like I feel like I have to build a story and then the character kind of comes along.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people name their characters way after, because I talk to other people and watch videos of other like well-known authors who, like, when it comes to editing and stuff, like halfway through the book, it's one name, and then they decide to change it. They have to go back and edit it and change it and name, you know. I feel like, at least for me, that's probably how I would implement that.
Yeah, I love that. That again, that's so validating. Like literally today, before I sent it to you, I was like going through and like I changed a name again, and I like so it's yeah. I'm glad to hear that that's normal, especially since like I have not. It's just I used to write a lot, like little like short stories as a kid,
Oh, nice.
but yeah, but like I never thought that I'd get to this point where I was like really committed to sitting down and writing this, because I think I didn't have a story before. There was nothing I wanted to write about in terms of what was happening in life or relating it to anything else. But this one seems like really special in the way of like it does come from a really personal place of like losing your identity to someone who has power over you, that kind of thing. So, and that's so true about the characters as well. I notice as like I think about the story more and how it's going to develop, I feel like little characters just kind of like pop up in my mind. I start seeing them and like kind of like, add them along the way. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, I hope good luck to you on writing your book. I do hope it comes out.
Thank
soon.
you.
I really do.
Thank you.
Do you have any daily writing routines, or like what do you do that inspires you to write? Or do you just kind of sit down and write, or do you have like a ritual, so to speak?
Yeah. So my favorite place to write is on our patio. We've got like big like circular chairs that like you sit and you like fall into. It's really nice. Definitely need coffee. My brain does not wake up without that, or at least yes. And one of the things that I had like read along the way of before I like chose what I was going to do with my life, I was playing with the idea of being an author. But because of, lots of like negative core beliefs, I was like, there's no way I can do that. So I kind of put that on the back burner. But when I was doing that, one of the things I had read was like, even if you cannot think of anything to write, just write. Like just
the first person that said that. Wow.
Yeah, just keep going. Like even if it's like writing on the paper, I have nothing to write about. You just continue to just kind of write out your thought, like whatever is happening in your thoughts and all of that, and then eventually something comes from it. So that's kind of like what I do, even if I don't like the portion of the story that I just wrote. Maybe there's something in it, a character, a quote that I wrote or something like that. I'm just going to write it. Yeah. I especially do that with poetry too.
Yeah.
Like if I'm noticing that like I'm even like having a feeling and the words aren't coming to describe it, I'll just write anything. And sometimes sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I think that's good advice. That is. Do you have like a particular platform you use to write on, or just like whatever's close by?
I write on Google, the docs for Google, because I can have access to it not only on my computer but on my phone. So if I get an idea, I want to immediately write it down because I cannot remember anything ever. So I need it written down.
That's actually pretty good information too, because I have I'm sure everyone has it, the Grammarly extension on my browser.
Me too. Yes.
So every now and then, like I have to like delete my cookies and all that because stuff is not working, and I have to like re-sign back in everything. So like I'm typing, it'll tell me re-sign into Grammarly. So when I do, like this actually just a couple days ago, I look on there, it shows me documents that I have written on the actual Grammarly website. And I was absolutely laughing because this had to been 8 9 years ago, I wrote like a small story because I used to write stories on Reddit. So there used to be short stories, and people essentially vote, and then you just gotta keep writing the stories. So I was laughing so hard because I had this story, and it was essentially about like this underground cage fighting where they used humans. Well, basically, it was like the government uses the convicted convicts
Oh my gosh.
and put them to fight, and they bet on them.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't remember how the beginning happened because this was like a small snippet of it that I guess was saved on there.
Mhm.
Eventually, like the main female character ended up there in the cage, and she had to go fight with all the convicted felons. How she got there was because one of her friends that she works with, she's like was like this scientist, and she created this machine that could bring people back to life. And what happened is that her friend wanted his deceased wife back. And like she was debating with him for so long, trying to get him to not do this, but he was like funding
Mhm.
so much of the money for her to build a machine. So
Yeah.
like say no. So essentially what he wanted was for her to bring his wife back. But why she did not want to, because her wife was essentially one of the mass murderer, like convicted felons. She was like the greatest, biggest, like well-known evil person of all
Oh
time.
my gosh.
And like he wanted her to come back, and as like they're bickering about him not bringing her back, she's like in the machine tinkering with it, and he pushes buttons himself and brings his wife back. But because she was in the machine, she has the wife's body. So like
Oh my gosh.
now she has like her skin on, and she got police arrested her or whatnot, and now she's in this cage thing, and like she's using like these other convicted felons to help her. So the ending of the story was is she convinced all the convicted felons to kill themselves because she could bring them back to life.
Oh my God.
The only way to like end this like diabolical thing that the government was doing was for everyone to just die. So essentially, she killed everybody, and she had everyone their molecules ready to bring them all back to life. And like she tinkered with their DNA and made all the convicted felons not be evil, and like gave them like good deed genes for them not to think evil and do bad stuff. So they were
Mm.
able to live their life and go back to their families. And
Yeah.
everyone was alive, and that whole organization was shut down. And then at the last, like she bring the wife back and
Yes.
good DNA, and now she wasn't evil and this big, evil genius or whatever she was anymore. And essentially was like she was the side character or the main character, but the main love story was with her friend and his wife, if that makes sense. Like she
Yeah.
essentially love story. So like she gave them their happily ever after, and she was happy that her machine was working. But I was like, why I'm telling you this, I totally forgot that I written that story until I seen it on Grammarly. I'm like, what is this? And I'm looking at it, I'm like,
Oh
oh my God. I forgot that I wrote that.
my gosh. Grammarly coming through just to help us remember where we've put things. Oh my gosh. No, that was thrilling. I was like, don't end. Let's keep going. Where's book 2?
I was like 10 years ago. I was writing like every day, like really like practicing.
Yeah.
And they say like the more you write, the better you get and the more confidence you have. But I really haven't written much in the last like 4 or 5 years. I feel like my confidence is down to 0.
I can do a story like that.
Right?
That sounded like invigorating.
As I was reading it, I was like, oh wow, I wrote that.
It does. It like boosts your confidence a little. Like at first, like you write something and you're like, I have to walk away from this right now. And then you come back to it and you're like, oh, it hits different now. It's like someone else completely wrote this. And then you're like, yeah. And then you're like, no, I wrote this. What?
It was funny. It's definitely nice reading it, and maybe I'll dabble back into that story. I totally forgot about it.
Yeah. So is it because like you've noticed that your confidence has been like decreasing, that you have stopped writing so much in the past years. Yeah. Yeah.
I think so. Like, I feel like you have to get to a place, and just from my experience, I mean, I feel like I've wrote in books, journals, online, every like blogging, journal, website, app that ever came out, I have used it and I've written. And I always wrote under like a pen name for sure.
Yeah.
And it was always because, I don't know, like I was embarrassed of friends or family members reading what I'm writing. But now being an adult, I don't have that fear anymore. Now I feel like I do have lack of confidence, but I also feel like it's like lack of time. Because you definitely can't, like, I can't just sit there for 20 minutes and just write, because and once I'm in the zone, like I want to stay in the zone. And once I get out of it, I feel like it's hard to get back to that place.
It really is, because when you're in the zone, you can kind of see the whole world.
Right.
But when you're taken away from that, it kind of, it's like a dream almost, like you're dreaming while you're writing. So the time thing is like for sure one of the biggest struggles. And I think too, to add to that, I feel the same way, by the way, too, about the confidence, like my confidence as well. And I think that's why I've never published anything or even like posted anywhere. I did post on Instagram for my poetry, but I no, that's okay.
Here.
Aw, how old is she?
3.
Oh my gosh.
But if I get up and move her, it's just going to be a bigger screaming tantrum. So I'm sorry, go on.
No, it's totally fine. But yeah, you're not alone in feeling that way. I feel that way as well. It's scary to like put it out there. It was scary, like messaging you and being like, "Hey,
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did." And I was thinking about that too. Like, you're still in the writing phase. You didn't publish anything. I'm thinking like this would be something really good for you to reflect back on once you publish.
Yes.
Your book, your poetry, and you're starting to see good feedback from like readers and fans of yours. I feel like that this will be a good like little keepsake in the vault that you can go back to.
Yeah, it will be nice to look back. It'll be like what we were talking about before of like, well, that I actually was okay. Like there's, I'm so much worse of myself than I really am. So yeah.
And I think that's the problem a lot of writers face.
Yes.
And I feel like that's the advice a lot of authors give me as well, is to just post it, write it. Don't worry so much about what other people think. You're writing it for you. So I feel like that's some advice that I'm going to start to take into consideration and try to start writing myself, just because I love words. I don't know. I love words. I love stories.
Yeah. And then do you have like all these stories like dancing around in your head sometimes and you just can't sit and write them?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
You know what I struggle with is building side characters.
Yes.
I do struggle with that. Like, I'm surprised, like that story I was just telling you, there was a few side characters in there. I'm like, wow, go Angie. How did I do that? Now today, you read a story from me, it's like, oh, this girl is so self-centered. It's only about her, nobody else.
But see, I doubt that now, because you probably thought the same thing then too. And you're like, oh, look at these great side characters as you read it now.
It's so funny.
Yes.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that is a really hard part of it for sure. There's like only like 4 characters so far in my book, and I'm like, how am I going to handle all of these?
That's what I think about too, is like writing it and like, how am I going to remember all of these side characters? But I guess I'm sure you have to have a separate sheet of paper or whatever with them written down. So you don't forget.
That is what my journal is for, because I'm like, okay, I can't forget that this person has this color eyes, like they, like always have their finger twirling, what, like that kind of thing. I'm like, I don't want to miss the details. So that's why I do that, because I know I'll forget.
That's good advice, because I do think about that. I know for a fact I'm going to forget somebody that I wrote about.
And like someone who reads it will be like, she forgot that this person does this, and you're like, oh no, oh no. So
yes, I swear it was one of the books. I think it was What the River Knows. Yeah, it was a book called What the River Knows. And actually, her new book just came out this month. Yeah, it came out on the 5th, so I do hope to read it soon. But anyways, that book was about this young girl. Her parents passed away. They were like obsessed with like Egyptian stuff and finding Cleopatra's tomb and all that. And like her parents were never with her. She was always with her aunt, and she gets a letter that her parents passed away. And she doesn't believe her parents are really dead, and she wants to go find them. Long story short, the beginning of the story, she was about 17, I believe, or 14. I kind of can't remember. She was young. She was underage.
Yeah.
But like as the story progressed, there was no birthday scene in the story, so she didn't turn 18. But like as the story progressed, it started to get more into romance. Not like smut type romance, but I mean there was romance in there, and I'm just like reading like, and I remember I went back in the book like, did I miss something? I thought she was a little girl. Like, why is she now liking this guy who's essentially a lot older than her?
Yeah.
So I feel like the author of that book started it to be maybe like a YA fantasy, and then it kind of grew. And I feel like editors or somebody forgot,
just missed that. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
And then they had printed it already, and they're like, well, too late.
Oh yeah, it's printed. I don't know if they fixed that. I've never Googled it if any like people caught on to it, which I'm sure someone had to, but I have no idea. I'm sure like that because I got it in a book of the month box. So
my God.
Yeah. So it was a little weird, but it's still
a little strange for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Still a really good story though.
You're like, how do I feel about reading this right now?
I'm so confused. Like, why? Like the main male guy in the story feels like his energy feels like he's like in his late 20s, and like this girl's a little girl. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But she ended up saying her age later on in the book. I think it was 18, or honestly maybe 21. I can't remember, but it was like so where they made her look to be at the beginning like super different.
Yeah, absolutely. You're like, this was like really quick development. Like, I don't know what's happening.
It was super weird. Do you have any particular books or authors that like influenced you into writing or even your style?
I think I started like wanting to write more once I started reading Lisa Jewell's books. Do you know some of her stuff?
I don't think so.
She writes her, she's based in the UK. And so I think that is partially a reason, but she's starting to come over here more. She just like, not recently, but she was like doing like signings and stuff in like North Carolina. I wanted to go so bad. One of her books called None of This Is True is supposed to, I think, become a Netflix series or movie. Yeah. She also just recently wrote a Marvel book for Marvel.
Really?
About Jessica Jones. Yeah.
That's a good accomplishment. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So I really like her work a lot. I mean, her writing, I think for me, her writing, it's so like vividly creates a picture in your mind and has all these like twists and turns. And like, it surprises you. Like a lot of things like don't surprise me anymore. I notice the older I get, the least surprised I am. And it's nice to feel that way when reading a book, especially since I'm always like one step ahead. Like when I watch like shows like Grey's Anatomy or something,
what happens?
I'm like, I call it out right away. I'm like, this is gonna happen. And my husband looks over at me and he's like, oh my God, he's like, did you watch this already? And I'm like, no.
husband does that to me all the time. He gets so upset because I always ruin what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but we're not ruining it. We're guessing, but we're just
Yes.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what's so nice about her stuff is it's
Really?
very it's very like it brings a picture to your brain, your mind, and that's like what I really want for my books. Like that I I just want people to really like envision the same kind of feeling I get from reading one of Lisa's books. She is extremely talented. And then I guess for poetry, one of my favorite poets is of course Rupi Kaur. She wrote Milk and Honey, and her poetry is really powerful with just a small like poem. Like I think one of them was like the world gives you so much pain, and yet here you are making gold or like gold out of it, or here you are. It's just beautiful, and I can't exactly remember the exact poem, but she like gives you so much feeling in just a small amount of words. So I love that for that too. That's kind of what's helped me with my poetry.
What type of books do you usually like to read? Like genres? Is that mostly sci-fi?
No, actually, like I have never read a sci-fi book, I don't think. Yeah. So yeah, so I'm like, I want to make sure I do this right. I'm like, I do like I do want to like look into like sci-fi books and kind of how they're structured, but also I'm like, it's my book. I can do whatever I want. But I do love to read fantasy. I also love to read Lisa Jewell's books are like kind of like mystery thrillers kind of thing. It's more so thriller. And then romance, of course. That was like I was always into romance. I love. But I read the series ACOTAR just recently. So good. And of course the Harry Potter books. So yeah.
I feel like I've always read fantasy, not even romance. Like just this year I started to read romance.
Yeah.
I've always read fantasy and YA books really up until last year.
Yeah.
But now like I feel like I do really love thrillers.
Yes.
They really are.
It's like a whole new thing, a whole new world.
Yes. It really is.
I strongly recommend her books for sure.
I'm gonna look at her. I just recently read The Silent Patient. Have you read that?
Oh my gosh, I want to. My husband's actually reading it right now.
How is he liking it so far?
He loves it. He was like, I was not expecting this to be as good as it was, and he's like pleasantly surprised. So,
did he finish it or no?
No, not yet. I don't think. Yeah.
So
he's not here, so you can like talk about it, and he won't.
No, I don't want to spoil anything, but read it because that was one of those books where you couldn't predict what was going to happen, at least for me.
Oh,
my mouth was on the floor. I done the audio book of it. My mouth was on the floor at the ending of the book. I'm like, oh my God, what?
Oh.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I was getting a little bored.
Yes.
This writer he definitely has a way with writing his endings and a plot twist.
Wow.
But his stories, I'm sorry, are a little bit boring for me. Yeah, like it was hard, and I probably wouldn't. Maybe reading the book would have been different for me. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. You don't have to apologize for that though. There's so many different, like everybody likes something different.
Which is the reason why I'm recommending you to read this book, because it was one. No matter as like actually want to like not finish the book. Like I wasn't that interested in it. The story was decent, but it just wasn't the best. But that ending makes me talk about the book.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I would not guess this for the world. Like you have to
I do. I really do, because I've not only has my husband told me to read it, but my friend's husband, my coworker, like I'm like hearing it everywhere, and I'm like, okay, now I need to sit down and read
I
this.
probably know, because you're not gonna guess what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, I love those kinds of things. I think there's another one I read recently too. I have to like go into my Audible to see the name of it. But I think when I told my friend about it, she was like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is," because apparently it's all over like TikTok. I'm not on there a lot, so I don't really know what like the necessarily is like trending or anything like that. But The Housemaid.
I haven't read it. My sisters have, and they like it.
Oh my gosh.
Good.
It is very much worth it. This is another one where you don't expect what happens at the end. I feel like books do that a lot more for me than like shows or movies. I'm always surprised. I also just read Where Butterflies Wander.
Oh, I never heard of that.
Huh?
Who was the author? I never heard of that one.
Suzanne Redfern was very good. And the audiobook is very good too, because they have different voices for each character, and how the book is written. Yeah, I love that. And how the book is written is like from their perspectives in different chapters.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's very good. And it's not one of those twisty turny thrillers, but it's wholesome. And that's why I kind of liked it, for sure.
I'll check it out. I feel like Frida McFadden is actually how I start getting into thrillers.
Yes.
Because even her books too, like listening to them or reading them, like you could tell like this would be a good movie. Would be great movies. So like there's some parts I'm just like, maybe it's because I was still in that fantasy mindset. So I feel like maybe now I appreciate thriller so much more, because that was like me just like dipping my toes. But no matter how kind of like my brain wanders off, because I tend to listen to thriller and read more like fantasy and romance, because I focus on it a little bit more. But there's times where like if my brain's wandering off and I'm doing something and then like I'm just not catching my attention.
Yes.
Never failed. Every time the thriller books, I'm just like, what?
Yes.
At the end of every one of them. They're so good.
So true. Yes. They get me sometimes. I'm like, what is happening here? And then Verity by Colleen Hoover. Have you read that one? Yes. Oh my gosh. That one took me for a ride.
I'd done the audiobook in that one, and actually Verity was my first thriller book. And then from there I started with the Frida McFadden.
Yes.
My sisters recommended it for me, and I read it. I'd done the audiobook. I finished it in one night. I stood up to 6 o'clock in the morning, and like I'm cleaning now. To this point, I'm keeping myself busy, so now I'm like deep cleaning the house because I want an excuse to listen to this book. And like every sound, every noise, like I'm jumping and like
I know.
Oh. It was so good.
Yes, we have we have our full-time jobs, and normally like twice during the week we go and we clean these clinics that I used to work for as like our kind of side job. And so I'll go to one location, especially like on the nights where we have to work in the nighttime. I'll go to one location, he'll go to the other, so we finish a little quicker. I was like listening to that book at one of the clinics, and it's nighttime. And like it has like all windows in this place. So, and you can't see out them because the windows are tinted and it's dark out. And I'm just over here like, oh my gosh, like this is so scary.
It was a good one. And I believe they're probably turning that into a movie.
Oh my
God. Adaptation for Verity,
Yes. I'm so excited for that then.
Yeah. And I believe The Housemaid too is supposed to be a Netflix series, maybe.
Oh, cool. Yeah. This is great. Like I mean, they definitely they have great stories. Like
They're so good. Did you read they have an extended chapter of Verity. Did you read it?
No. Oh my gosh. What?
In Walmart or Target books, just go and look at the back of the book. You'll find an extended chapter.
Oh my gosh.
You have to read it. I believe it's like some people post it on like Reddit and stuff. But you have to read it.
God.
It shifts your whole entire perspective of the story.
Cow. I love
the chapter.
Oh, that is so cool. I cannot wait to go do that. I'm literally just gonna go and just like stand in the aisle and be like,
read it. Yes, it's a small little chapter, but it really does shift your whole perspective.
Yes. I don't know how you feel about this, but I love like some like I even like read like fan fiction and stuff like that because I love all the different like kind of different stories like people can come up with their writing. So have you heard of Manacled?
I have not read it, but I have it in my Kindle.
It is very, very good. If you get the chance, you should read it. It was because I loved The Handmaid's Tale when I heard like that this was like
really
like an adaptation. Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, it's very interesting. And it was again another one where it makes you like feel with them. That's like one of my favorite part about a book is like when you can be so into the story that you're experiencing this roller coaster with them. That's certainly one of them too.
I'm gonna have to get to that soon. I've been wanting to, I just never had the time and I always forget about it. They also have on Spotify, someone created a whole playlist of Manacled where somebody done an audio version of it and you can listen to it on Spotify.
Oh my gosh.
If you just type on and you can listen to all for free because it's not an audio book. Someone just published it on Spotify and made this playlist.
Wow.
Like Manacled playlist, you'll find it on Spotify. I remember it was like somebody posted, I want to say that Fantasy Fangirls podcast. I don't remember one of them, but I haven't listened to it. I'm like,
wow.
I want to, but
yes. Yeah, it's very long. Like that's the other thing too.
Probably why.
Yeah.
It does a lot of pages. They're making that she's making that into a whole story.
I cannot wait. Yeah.
But it's gonna be different. So that's why like everyone was freaking out. I hurried up and saved Manacled. At one point they're gonna take it off.
Yes.
Internet. It's like everyone was freaking out, and I remember everyone on Instagram was posting the links like, "Go download it now before it's gone." So I'm like, I had to get on this. I'm having FOMO, so I go and download it.
You're like, I gotta get this. Go.
Yeah, I didn't know this just by doing a little research. When people write fan fiction and their work gets noticed, it has to be totally different.
Wow.
So the story, the characters are going to be different. Obviously, the title is going to be different. Yeah. So it's likely going to be a different story entirely. This was just a way of I guess publishers who've seen her work.
Wow.
It's going to be that book coming out, but apparently the story could be totally different. Because did you know that Twilight was fan fiction?
Yes. I did read that.
Oh, you read the fan fiction?
No, I mean, I read about it being a fan fiction. Yeah.
It's fan fiction of 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then we make it into a young adult book.
No, I had no idea, but that's how I stumbled upon it, just randomly searching Manacled, and then just brain wandered other directions, and that's how I found out. But look how big of a transition from 50 Shades of Grey to Twilight that we know today is totally different. So,
oh my God,
I don't even know what Manacled is going to be.
Yeah, I'm so interested to see what they develop this story into. It's gonna be really cool.
I need to read it. Me and my sister always talk about it, but I guess because it is so large, I might try to do the audio book of it. My problem is it's down for a very long period of time.
That's what I run into all the time when I try and just read a physical book. I'm if I'm sitting, I'm either working or I'm relaxing.
Yeah.
like, yeah, my job like comes with a lot of documentation. Like I have to constantly be writing notes and, updating treatment plans and stuff like that. So when I'm sitting, I'm like on my computer doing that kind of stuff, or like doing my poetry or doing like trying to write this book. But it's like, I can't sit down anymore and read books. I mean, I have so many, like, so it's like, I would like to, but now I'm just like, well, I'm not going to buy anymore. I'm only going to do them on Audible for now. Put myself in timeout for buying books because I buy a ton of them.
I did that at the beginning of this year. So I actually have bought 0 physical books this year.
Yes.
I'm proud of myself. But I only did it because, I mean, I was an avid reader young as a teenager, but then like life, I forgot so much. Everybody on the internet, like I feel like in their late 20s or late 30s are like, forgot that they used to love to read.
Yes.
So like I was buying a bunch of books like the end of last year. My daughter completely pulverized. And like I was doing the book of the month subscription. She destroyed all of those books. So I cut my didn't buy any more books, put whatever books I did have in my storage, and now I just do Kindle or an audiobook.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's definitely different now that we have all of these, but it's so nice to have like such a wide variety of options. And especially with the Kindle, like, because you can have like so many in just that one, and then audiobooks, like that's all I listen to on my drive to work, on my drive back. I live in Orlando and in Florida, so all the traffic. And and so that's what I do is I'm either listening to a book or I'm listening to a podcast.
So what are you currently listening to now?
I just finished that book Where Butterflies Wonder. So I really, really would either love to read The Silent Patient or I think there's a third, The Housemaid.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but I want to read that too.
I heard it was good. One of my sisters just read it and she like really loved it. So I heard it was good. I haven't started any of the Housemaids. Like I keep forgetting about it when I start a new book. And I'm like the type of person that when I start a new book, it's always like on the fly. It's never like, oh, I'm gonna read this and this and this, and then actually do it. It's always like once I finish a book, like, okay, I'm gonna read this one now, even though I had like 20 books I wanted to read like 4 months ago. So I'm terrible.
It's like that. I don't know. It's like when you buy all of them, it's like you just have them there. And it's like, if you get another one, it's like that dopamine. It's like, oh, but this one, like it makes me feel excited and happy. So,
it definitely does. All right, friend. So I do have a few questions for you that are non-book related before I let you go. We've been talking for a while. What are some things that you're really passionate about outside of writing?
I love photography. I do that as well on the side. Yeah. I'm still building my portfolio for it. But I have a photography like Instagram and even on the one I messaged through you, I post some stuff there. But that is definitely something I love to do. I really, so far I've done like a newborn photo shoot, couples.
Nice.
Yeah. It's really fun. It means a lot to me to be able to do stuff.
Oh, nice. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, very late. Sometimes. And then I wake up and I'm like, why did I do this to myself? That's a question every time. There's no change.
Yeah. I feel like you do that. Every morning we say that.
Yes.
Do it over and over again.
Yeah. I very much like relate to that. It's like you wake up and it's like, or you stay up at night, it's like that revenge, like, remember, or have you heard of that? Like it's like you didn't do anything that like you really liked all day. And so now you're like, now I have to stay up and do the things I love for many hours. I can't think of what it's called.
Like I do that every night.
Yeah.
Every night I do that. So what's one place in the world that you would love to visit that you haven't visited?
There's so many places. Let's see. Probably Ireland would be the top of my list.
Yeah.
I have ancestral ties to Ireland. So that might be cool to like see where my family came from. Especially just like seeing like how beautiful like the cliffs are there. I can't remember exactly the name of the cliffs, and also I feel like it's a very inspiring place to visit too. It's just so beautiful, so like peaceful. It looks like, you know.
Yeah, it definitely does. So what's a movie or a TV show that you've been obsessed with lately?
Oh, I'm rewatching all of Grey's Anatomy, but now I'm in the seasons that I haven't seen yet.
Okay.
So,
wow, you have to go through.
Yes, it was a lot. Now we're on like season 15. I was like, how did we get here so quickly? That's saying something. I'm like, while I'm watching Grey's Anatomy, I could be doing other stuff, but it's.
So have you went a period of time of not watching Grey's Anatomy? So is that why you started to rewatch it?
Yeah, it was after one character had passed away that I stopped watching because I was really mad. And and I think you all were. I feel like you know who I'm thinking about.
We all were. Actually, I'll tell you so quick. My sister was having her last baby. She had her third baby. My mom is in the hospital with my sister. I wasn't there yet. I'm in town, but I'm at the hotel between my family, so I could take a taxi and go there. She had the baby or whatever, just like, girls' time. My mom, my sister's mother-in-law, we're all just going to hang out that day in the room with her. Yeah. On the phone, I hear her, I talk to my sister saying I'm on my way. I hear my mom in the background, spoiled it, because she already watched it.
Oh,
and
my
I'm like on the phone in the taxi, Mom!
No.
Don't tell me this will happen. Oh. My mom spoiled it for me.
Oh, spoilers are the worst. No.
I said whole day.
I literally have a friend who will look up the end of a movie that we're watching while we're watching it. And I'm like, if you tell me right now, because she has before, but now I've set the boundary. She doesn't anymore. But she did once, like only once. And I think it was but it's just a joke that we have now, and it really is hilarious.
Well, you and your friend need to read The Spoiler by L.E. Todd. She was actually the first person I'd done my episode of the podcast with. She's the very first.
My gosh.
That's exactly what her book is about.
I'm writing this down right now. I'm literally writing it down.
It was such a cute story, but that's funny. Like,
oh my gosh.
Reading the story, and even have to ask her in an episode, like, how did you come up with this?
Yeah.
About someone who's spoiling movies for somebody else. But like apparently there are people who do that.
I have to read that. That is such a great concept. What?
Read it. It was super cute.
Oh my gosh.
So are you liking Grey's Anatomy where it's at now? Or what?
I don't know how to feel about it because I still really love like Meredith, of course. But it's just, it doesn't feel the same way it used to. You know, it was very like genuine and like very intense watching it before. And now it seems like they're kind of just like moving through, you know?
They should have ended the season, my opinion, after that. Because, now it's like on season 20 or 22.
Yeah.
20. And like, I feel like they were supposed to have a season finale last year. But now I notice it's seasons on this year.
I know. I was like, I thought it was ending.
Yeah.
And now it's not. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I really need to catch up so I can stop
Yeah, I
playing.
only watched a few episodes.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those shows. I feel like Grey's Anatomy and The Walking Dead was one of those shows for me that after so many seasons, it just wasn't good anymore. But it's
Yes.
just like I spent or invested so much time in them that I'm gonna finish it now. So I
Yes.
can watch it, even though it's just not enjoyment. It feels more like a task now.
Yeah. And I feel like part of that, like watching it and being invested is like the characters. Like you like feel like you know them. Like that's why I'm like, no, I gotta stick with my girl Meredith. Like we gotta walk through this journey together, But but
Yeah. We'll see. I'm actually hoping Grey's Anatomy just ends because I feel like it needs to be put out of its misery. I'm sorry. I love Grey's Anatomy, and me and my sister and my mom have been watching it. I've been diehard fans since like 17, but now it's
yeah.
like, okay, you're old now. You gotta go.
Yeah. No, I'm like, how do you guys have all these ideas for 20 seasons? How do you come up with all of this? Like, oh
You'll
my
see.
God.
As you watch it, you'll see it's like, okay, they are running out of ideas. So just keep watching.
Yeah. Well, I just watched it today and saw like the same actress playing a different character.
I don't remember that. Oh my God.
Yeah. It was the lady who played Baby in Dirty Dancing. She was in an earlier, I just had a realization. That was House.
Oh, okay.
And okay, so they didn't reuse a character. I was wrong. But yeah. Also, House is an amazing show. And it ended when it was supposed to. Just
okay. That's good to know. That is good to know.
Yeah.
All right. What is one of your favorite comfort foods?
Oh man. Probably my grandma's goulash. I don't know. I know goulash like originated in Germany, but I don't know how my grandma got a hold of it, being born in Tuxeco, Missouri. So very, very teeny tiny town in the middle of like nothing. But yeah, her recipe for that was just very simple but very good.
Goulash soup?
It's not hers, but I think some goulash does have more liquid in it, but hers she doesn't put anything in that.
More like a stew?
Yes. Yeah. Probably that. It's very simple. I use Impossible beef now because I don't eat beef anymore, just with my stomach. So it's just like ground beef, some seasoning, like whatever you want to put in there. We put adobo. And then you after like the beef. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. You put the onions in first so they can cook. Then you put the beef in, and then you add the tomatoes. You like let it sit for like 10 minutes so it can like really soak up together, and then you dump in the pasta, which is elbow pasta. It's very good. It's so good, and it's so simple and easy. So
that sounds good. I have to try that.
Yes.
All right. My last question for you is, do you have a favorite season or time of year?
Yeah, I love spring. I love it so much.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
It's yeah, and it might have to do with like it's like the best season in Florida. I'm very biased with that though. Other Floridians might be like, you're crazy. But we have like the best weather then. It's not too hot and it's not, it's not necessarily cold. I like it when it's cold in Florida because I get to finally wear like some of my favorite sweaters. But it's the most beautiful weather we have. It doesn't rain a lot. At least in Orlando. It's always a blue sky. It's the best time to come here, honestly.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm originally from Phoenix, but I was in Seattle for like 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
I just moved back to Phoenix which I missed. But Seattle was beautiful. And I was just thinking now, are you saying rain? I'm like, springtime in Seattle, all it is rain and rain and rain.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I've been to Seattle as well. Oh my gosh, I love it there. Yeah. And when you lived there, did you go to Mount Rainier?
I didn't go to it. I passed by it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's so huge. You can see it from like any.
So I passed by it, pretty not super close, but close enough where we've seen a lot of the mountain. You see a pretty good view when you go to Leavenworth, which is like a German town.
Oh my gosh.
You look like you're in a freaking snow globe.
That's beautiful.
Like you go to this little small, tiny little town, and you literally feel like you stepped into a different country. It is so beautiful. Like has like this little town and all these little shops, and you feel like you're in a Hallmark movie. I'll just tell you that.
Oh my gosh, I have to go and live my best Hallmark life. Oh my gosh.
No, you do. Like we went there last Christmas. It was absolutely amazing, and that's why I was asking what goulash was, because I feel like I ate something kind of like that there in that town.
Yeah.
It was delicious.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, look up Leavenworth in Washington and just watch the videos. It really is amazing. You can rent cabins, you go like a snow sledding where a guy takes you on a horse sled and all the snow.
Oh, cool.
Like this small little town, and you see all the little people just playing in the snow. There's restaurants, there's shops. There was a bookstore there, and I went in the bookstore and I had to buy a book. I forgot the name of it, to be honest. It's somewhere in my storage, but it was a local author, and so they wrote thrillers about Leavenworth.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, so I had to buy one of their books. I want to look into it more. I believe it was a Christmas one, so I should try to find it if I could read it. But yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I definitely need to look that up because it looks beautiful. All that's been on my Instagram is just all these like Christmas like villages and stuff like that in Europe. And I'm like, that's so far. But I'm like, oh, well, Washington is not too bad. And I've done that plane ride before. So
Leavenworth is absolutely magical. And like all the hotels are like look like little German cottages and just so nice. And, like we got one hotel, I forgot the name of it, Sleepy something, Sleepy something. You have like a little patio with chairs, and like your literally patio is just like this river with snow and trees and like absolutely amazing.
Oh my gosh. Feels like a book, and just like what you said, Hallmark.
I believe they did record a Hallmark movie there. I forgot which one, but they did make a Hallmark movie in Leavenworth.
You would have to.
Yes, it's so cute.
Yes, and I actually just recently visited Arizona too. So I love it there. It's very beautiful.
I always tell people, Arizona, especially Phoenix, the like vibe or energy that I get in Phoenix very much feels like when I'm on vacation in Orlando.
Really?
Yeah, think of that same vacation energy. So when I'm like out in the city of Phoenix, I feel like I'm on a big vacation. I think
that's honestly like the best feeling. If it gives you that kind of feeling, that's like, this is where I should be living. Like you should feel that like happiness.
Yep, that's what I do feel in Phoenix. So weird. A lot of people hate Phoenix. It's so hot, but I don't know. I just like the desert for some reason.
The desert is beautiful. Oh my gosh. I feel like I got whiplash in Arizona because like I would go, like I stayed in Flagstaff. We drove to Arizona from Florida to go to the Grand Canyon. Yeah, it was not a good decision because we went in March, which apparently there's tornadoes in March. And I'm like, not a good idea because we literally drove through Texas. But yeah, going through all of we traveled like to the Grand Canyon, and then we went through Flagstaff, which it was snowing, whole white bucket of snow in March. And then we went down to Sedona, which is like complete desert. We were like, what is happening? There's so many different seasons here. It was so cool.
It's so strange. Like it's a full on desert heat. But the
Yes.
town is Wickenburg. It's a small little cowboy town, which looks like this town too. Looks like it should be in a movie. It's like super small.
Nice.
And everything's like Western, all like main streets, like Western cowboy bars. But people go past through this town because they go to some other town. I don't know what it's called, but apparently big ski mountain. I'm like, how is that in Arizona? Right?
I know. I'm like, how is this happening? Yeah, because like we would look at the mountains and it would almost like it was so funny. Like I was like, this is like a movie set out here because it's all flat and then there's like boom mountains like right in the middle and we're like, how does that work?
I know. Well, I used to look at all the, like when I was first moved here, I used to look at all the plants. Like why they look like they need to be in water. Like they look like they belong in water, the way the plants are shaped. And I Google it. So apparently like the desert areas used to be underwater like so many hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Oh my
Like the Sierra Desert was underwater. Phoenix and some other desert. I don't know if New Mexico was or not. But like when I read that, I'm like, oh wow, that makes so much sense because these plants literally look like they belong in a fishbowl or something.
Oh my gosh, that is so interesting. I did not know that.
Oh, weird things come in my mind. I have to ask Mother Google.
Yes. Time. Yes. I will say too, the petrified forest was super cool. We did that too.
Where's that at?
It's, oh gosh, I think it's in New Mexico. But it all like melded together like towards the end of that drive because it was very long. It's like the trees they've turned to stone. That's how ancient they are.
Water. They probably need water.
Oh yeah, exactly. It was from a volcanic event like billions of years ago, and they turned to stone over time. Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up.
Very cool. Super cool.
Yeah. I will look that up. Well, Nathelee, it was an absolute pleasure talking with you. I actually had a blast. So I do hope I get to chat with you soon, and I do hope we get to see your work on the shelf soon.
I hope so too. I've been dreaming of this for a while.
It'll happen. Just keep at it.
Yes.
All right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. You too. It was so good talking to you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Bookish Spell. I hope you enjoyed our magical bookish journey together. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to leave a review. It really helps. I'll be back next Wednesday with more enchanting stories and author insights. Until next time, keep the magic alive in your hearts and on your bookshelves.